Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. On today's video, we're going to figure out what is the biggest log that I can mill on my Norwood LM29 LM29. So there's obviously two dimensions that you need to understand on a log to determine if you can mill it or not. The first, of course, is the length. Is the log too long to mill because you only have so much track with the LumberMate? The carriage will only travel so far. Standard bed, I believe, will allow you to mill a 12-foot 9-inch log. Now we put the 4-foot extension on this, so technically we should be able to mill a 16/9. This log that I've loaded is exactly 14 feet long, give or take some of the wispies of the notch, of course. That's the type of material we need out of this specific project. So I know we can do that. I know we can do that length. That's not a problem. By the time the carriage gets to the end of the log, there'll still be some room on the rail to pass on through. The second dimension, of course, is diameter. So what's the largest diameter of log that you can handle? Well, that's really why they call that the LM29. It can handle up to a 29-inch diameter log, but there's a little bit of asterisk that needs to go by that. So let's look at this log here. This one is at the end here, this one's 17¼ inches in diameter. Now again, before you guys comment, if you haven't watched the channel, this is a logger's tape. So when I measure the circumference, it's giving me the diameter. It's two-sided tape. I can measure regular, and I can measure diameter. You guys blowing me up saying I don't know the difference between circumference and diameter. Okay, just a caveat there. Okay, so no problem here, but like a lot of white oaks, they have a big old butt. So how big is our butt here on this end? Well, this girl's got a 22¾ inch butt. So she's definitely a little bigger, a little larger on the end. This analogy's getting out of control. So almost 23 inches. Now again, 29 says it can handle that. But if you look at the fine print on the LM29, its maximum board width is 22 inches. So if it can mill a 29-inch log, why are the board widths limited to 22 inches? Well, the issue is really best illustrated here at the throat. So you can see this almost 23-inch diameter log here is a little bit wider than the throat of my mill. So let's get down and actually measure that. Do a little dual camera action here, so bear with me. So if I take my guide and I move it all the way out to its maximum, that's as far as I can pull it, and I look under here and say, okay, distance between this wheel and that wheel is my max cut. Now, according to this tape measure, I can get it to stand up, lock it in there, measure here. You can see that is right at 23, and that's going right up against the roller. So that's pushing your luck. So that's why they say your maximum board width would be 22, and maybe a cat's whisker over. Maybe you could get 22½. Because once you get this log squared, imagine squaring that log. Once we get it squared, it can't be bigger than 22 inches for this to pass through. Now we've got, as I mentioned, we've got a 26½-inch log, so what are we going to do? So really what we've got to do is whittle it down. So we're going to take our passes like we always do. We're going to come through and cut all 4 sides to make them square. But we're going to have to whittle away. So as we come in and make this cut, and we turn 90 degrees, or we turn 180 degrees, whichever we decide, then of course we're making this smaller in width. So that's how we're going to be able to whittle it down to be able to get to that 22-inch or 22½-inch maximum throat width there. So we're going to have to take bites at it. We may even have to take multiple passes as we turn it. So this log has a little bit of a dog leg to it. You can see here on this side, there's a curve. So we're going to have to take that into consideration as well. As we whittle away, we're going to want to whittle out some of that. Now again, since I've got the lowest point of the log, I got 17 inches there. We should have plenty to deal with. Before we cut, there's actually one issue that shows up, and I've actually talked to Norwood about this and asked their recommendations or how they address this concern, and that is dogging the log down. So the log is rested here on the bed, pressed against the log rests on the back side, those vertical poles sticking up. So that has the log over the furthest it will go in that direction. Now, to keep it from twisting on you while you're milling it, you would normally use this dog, and you come up and you crank it down, and you get a nice little, you get some nice tension on that. You can almost hear it. I don't know if you can hear that straining. And there we've got it rested. So it's locked in place. It's not going to roll when we cut it. The problem is, you can see this handle sticks out past our track. So if I was to pass through here, then the vertical of my carriage is going to catch on this, and I'm dead in the water. So really, when you think about putting a 29-inch log or a 27-inch log or anything of that diameter, you're going to have to come up with an alternative way to dog it. Really, your dog can't really stick out any further than here. So even if I was to crank this all the way back, of course, that makes the handle stick out further. Now, in looking at some forums and stuff, people have suggested, oh, you cut your handles off, or you come up with some alternate ways of doing that. One way would be to make a wedge. So when I talked to Norwood about this and said, hey, how are you all recommending fixing this issue or addressing this issue? They said, well, if you're going to get in the habit of milling logs that size, you need to come up basically with your own dogging system. And whether that's like here, you stick a board or a wedge under there, and you find a way to wedge it, whether you're using a C-clamp or some other clamping mechanism to lock it in so it doesn't interfere with this rail, or you make individual wedges that go along each bunk here and slide in there and wedge, then you're going to have to come up with that on your own. Honestly, their recommendation when they said if you're going to be milling your 25 to 29-inch diameter logs on a regular basis, maybe you need to buy the HD 36 that can handle up to 36-inch logs. Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's your answer. That's the engineering issue there. If it was me, I would want to come up with something that I could offer my customers to say, hey, here's an alternate dog pattern if you want to use. You bought the LM29 thinking you could do 29-inch and under logs, so we want to make sure we accommodate you for the safety features and all that. So yeah, a little disappointed with that. That's not, to me, the best answer to say, hey, come up with your own. So my simple solution is just to use what I've got laying around, and so I have this poplar. Poplar board actually has some wane, so it has a little bit of a wedge shape to it anyway. I've cut them long enough so that they span two log rests on the bed. Put one on the opposite end here. Just lay it there. And then from the workshop, I have these little 20-inch bar clamps. I think they're Harbor Freight. Back in the day when they were on sale, you used to get them for like $4 a piece. So who knows where they are now. I haven't bought them for years. So all you do is just mount this in a way that it's going to grab both sides of that board underneath the log. We're going to twist it here to tighten it up. You should hear these nice little groaning noises as it shoves up underneath that log. And that keeps it in place so it won't twist. And also, because that's a 20-inch bar clamp, then it won't interfere with my carriage as it comes through. So it cleanly passes by on both sides without getting hung. So that gives me the opportunity to clear that and still have it stabilized. If the log's lying flat on the bed and you first cut, chances are it's not going to twist. But as my luck goes, sometimes you have a knot that's actually holding the whole thing up. So when you start to get the vibration of the machine running and everything's kind of vibrating, then there's a chance it could twist. And you don't want to take the chance on tearing up a blade, getting in a real strange bind, or even tearing up some of the rollers on your mill. So you got to clamp it down. Again, I wish Norwood would provide something for that, but you got to do what you got to do. So I got the logs squared off to the cant size that I want. I'm now 10 inches wide by I think 13 inches tall. And that's where we're going to start taking our 2x off. Now I have some wane here at the top, and I'll have a little bit of wane at the bottom, so those boards may be sacrificial. This board here, it's 12 inches? It's 13 inches wide, but it's a 2-inch that I want. It has a little bit of wane here on the bottom. But what I'll do is, as I get down to the 10-inch cut, I'll put that guy back on, cut the wane out of it, and then that'll be a good board. Now, as you can see in my time lapse, that I'm not really set up to be a one-man show for this large a log. I could not turn the log with the cant hook by myself until I got it down to a certain size. I had to use a tractor to keep flipping it. And it just, white oak's huge, it's heavy, it's, obviously it's green, so it's full of water. So this has just been a real butt kicker. I really like working with smaller logs, but because of this project I'm working on, this is what I need it for. So I'm going to start slicing off here and see how many boards we get out of this. Well, after all that milling, I finally found the one I was looking for, and that was the last one. I also realized near the end of the cant that I could put these in the bucket and carry them over here instead of trying to drag them over by myself. Ripped. All right, so what that log yielded was 7 10-inch wide by 2-inch thick boards that are, these are actually 14.4, so 14 feet 4 inches, and I need 13. 13 is what I need for this project. And got my ricks cut, which are obviously my spacers, let air pass through, so I'm going to rick these up here. Then we'll put some weight on it, and then we're going to let hopefully lower humidity of fall take effect here. Well, we'll have some other videos detailing this project. Kind of crossing video paths here, but we'll definitely link to them as they come available. All right, take care, everybody.